thank you to Centennial School for the singing of O Canada for us. That was awesome. We have a treaty acknowledgement. I'd ask Trustee Dent to read out our treaty acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnerships with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Dustin. Before we adopt the agenda, to the million people that are listening online, we have all 9 trustees here with us: Trustee Rowland, Trustee Smith, Trustee Nicol, Trustee Reed, Trustee Rowan, Trustee Boyton, Trustee Dent, Trustee Harris, and myself. We have senior administrators, Superintendent Timko, Secretary Treasurer Thiessen, Assistant Superintendent Fieldberg. We have our superintendent that's in the wings, Mr. Reed, with us. And as well, we have Sarah, Stacy, and Jennifer from our board office helping us out here, so thank you. And welcome to Sarah, and welcome back to Stacy. We appreciate that you're here. And as well, we have Kim Stevenson. Kim is the principal from Lac Du Bonnet Senior, and she is going to be giving a presentation for us a little bit later. Did I miss anybody? Good. So we have a motion to adopt the agenda. Be it resolved, the board approve the agenda. I need a move and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Any comments? Hearing none, then we'll vote. It passed 9-0. Thank you. 3.0 is our chair's comments. I will actually talk about the fact is that it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks for this board as we decide on budget, and so it'll be interesting and some hard work. So thank you for the work that you're going to do ahead of time to our trustees. Share a story. So I'm going to open up the field. Share a story. Does anybody have a story to share? Trustee Dent?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Tonight, tomorrow, and the next night, we have the girl with the golden locks put on by École Dugald. So that's going to be at the community center. SCI had a PAC meeting on January 30th. We welcome folks out to their next PAC, which is April 30th as well as June 11th. SMS had their winter concert on January 31st and February 1st. I was able to attend that, and that was fantastic on February 1st. And then also they're doing I Love to Read Month, as this is I Love to Read Month being February. So the 3 books that SMS are doing are The Benefits of Being an Octopus, Crenshaw, and No Fixed Address. So I have some reading to do.
Thanks, Trustee Dent. Anyone else? Trustee Nicol.
Yeah, I just want to mention about February I Love to Read Month, and the White Mouse students are looking forward to seeing the Leader of the Opposition and our MLA, Wayne Roscoe, because he is booked to read to them one of the days. They've got some local authors that are also coming to see. There are also 2 students that are going to the mixed doubles provincials in Winnipeg this week, so it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Thanks, Don. Trustee Rowan.
I'll try not to double up on what Dustin's already covered here, but I had the opportunity to attend Malonka. It was a wonderful celebration. They had dancers out. It was great to see all the families there. I want to thank all of the parents from Oakbank Parents for Ukrainian Education for all of the hard work and dedication they put into making that night a success. It was a huge attendance. I think it was the biggest attendance they've seen even since pre-COVID. I think this is actually their first one back, but so it was great turnout. I also wanted to mention that Dugald has their next PAC meeting on February 13th.
Thank you, Trustee Rowan. Anyone else? Trustee Fieldberg? Sorry. Assistant Superintendent Fieldberg.
Dual role. The Manitoba Council of Exceptional Children puts on a Yes I Can events every year to celebrate the achievements of kids with exceptional needs, and we are very proud to have 4 students being represented. I can't say their names because we just got the announcement. I don't know if that's even if they know, but there's 4 kids, so if you get a chance to go on February 29th, it's a fantastic event.
Well, that's pretty impressive, 4 of our students. Thanks, Lars. Anyone else? Trustee Rowland?
I just wanted to remind everyone that the Springfield Collegiate is having their graduation fashion show next Thursday, February 15th for a fundraiser for their grad, and good luck to all students starting their 2nd term.
Thank you. Anyone else? So I want to talk about one thing. I was at a hockey arena and I saw Trustee Reed cheering on his grandson's hockey team playing against my hockey team. So Lac Du Bonnet was playing against Powerview, and Trustee Reed was a pretty loud fan in the stands, and the wrong team won. No congratulations to Lac Du Bonnet for beating us last Wednesday, but Trustee Reed was a pretty important cheer in the stands. So thank you for coming out and supporting the 2 teams out there, Trustee Reed. Anyone else? Okay. We have a delegation here, and Kath, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I welcome you, Kim Stevenson, the principal of Lac Du Bonnet Senior School, and she is here to speak to you about the goal that they're working on at Lac Du Bonnet Senior and tell you about all of the hard work that she and her team do there, and I won't take any more of her minutes. Kim, it's all yours.
Thank you for having me. So our school goal is centered around mental health. You can flip to the next one. Our goal is that all stakeholders in the school community will demonstrate skills related to self-regulation of technology presence, self-reflection on the impact of online interactions, and building healthy in-person relationships. So the reason for choosing that goal this year, we have had a mental health goal for the last number of years, but the reason why we adjusted it a little bit this year was because we noticed an increase in students with low self-esteem, so there were being constant comparisons of themselves to others, or comparison to different people they saw on social media and other media. We noticed a decrease in the physical activity that students were participating in outside of phys ed class. We found them spending most of their breaks and lunch on their phones rather than participating in activities that we had around the school. We had fewer numbers participating in school sports, from pre-COVID numbers. And they were also, lots of them, talking about how they were spending their whole nights from the time they got home from school and even into the later nights binge watching different series. So we recognize that as probably having an impact on their physical health. We were noticing more callous interactions between peers, so lots of online comments that were being brought either to the guidance counselor, the resource teachers, or to myself, even instances of telling people to kill themselves or wishing other people dead in casual conversation. And it was just concerning how callous all of this was, and they didn't really seem to see the big impact that it could have on others. The last reason was that we found more and more difficulty accepting other people's views. So more of our students were watching and listening to extreme views on social media and podcasts and things like that. And they started to regurgitate some of that hate that they were hearing. And they weren't really willing to have discussions with anyone else that had other opinions. So they would just share these opinions, but anyone that had a different opinion they didn't really want to hear. So we thought it was time to probably address some of that on the school level. The strategies that we came up with as a team was that we wanted to collect feedback from students and parents on their technology use and their perceived mental health. We created a technology use policy in the school, which you do have in front of you. We also organized some PD on recognizing unhealthy online behavior in our students so that we can build a plan to combat that. We are planning some community learning sessions. We have cell phone breaks and alternative activities available in the school. We offer positive mental health activities, provide welcoming social spaces, or we want to create those welcoming social spaces. And we wanted to have school-wide learning on the impact of social media and on ourselves and on the treatment of others. So the progress to date is in the next couple slides. So we collected initial data on our students' technology use and their social media use. So some of the key things that came away from that, so we were actually able to use Microsoft Teams forms and could send out that survey electronically to all of our students. Their homeroom teachers spent time in the computer labs and made sure that everybody had the time to do that. We found that all of our students have access to a cell phone, a streaming, or gaming device in their homes. We found that 83% of our students admitted that they use technology longer than they intend to. So if they think they're going to sit down for 20 minutes and just quickly scroll through TikTok, they found that they had wasted an hour before they realized the time had gone. The physical and mental health consequences, 22 of our students, so we have 185 students in our building, and 22 of those, which is 12%, admitted that they felt the use of electronics had caused physical or mental health consequences to them, while 28% admitted continuing to use electronics despite the fact that they were noticing those consequences. So a large portion of our student body are not able to regulate that and not able to stop themselves when they realize that it's a problem. Just over half of our students admitted that they have chosen to spend time online rather than spending time with family and friends. 79% believe that their sleep is impacted by their technology use. 41% of our students are concerned that their parents or guardians are struggling to manage their screen time. Only 10% of our students believe that their electronics are negatively impacting their school performance. However, 70% of them admitted that their learning would improve if they were not allowed to use their phones in class. So, some data that contradicts a little bit, but the final point was that 63 of our students say that they have been bullied online, which is actually 10% above the national average. So what we gathered in that is that most of our students don't believe that technology is an issue for them, but the data really isn't supporting those feelings. The next piece is that we developed our technology policies. So what you see in front of you is our cell phone and mobile device guidelines. So this we came up with as a staff together. We brainstormed lots of ideas of how we could manage that use and what the best use of our time was. The biggest aspects of it, I think, that are having the biggest impact is that we no longer allow the use of cell phones during class time unless it's for educational purposes. So the idea that if you're finished your work or you're finished your test, we have been providing other things for them to do rather than check their social media or anything like that. We installed pocket charts in every one of our classrooms so that there is a common space where students are expected to leave their phones. So when they come in the door, they put their phones in the pocket chart and they don't come pick them up until the end of the class. So they're not distracted by those vibrations in their pockets either. In saying that, we ran into some problems, which, I mean, we didn't foresee, but we are tackling now. So some of our staff are really struggling to enforce this just because there are such ingrained habits, especially in our grade 11s and 12s. So there is some pushback and it's difficult for staff to really step on that. In those discussions or in those struggles, we did discuss what the purpose of our policy was. And the fact was we decided on this policy because we wanted them to have healthy in-person interactions. So the goal is not only to take the phone out of their hand, but to provide them other things to do that they could do together. So we have puzzles in many of our rooms. We have little games that are just 5-10 minute games that can be done and involve conversations over them. We also recognize that our students need to learn how to be bored. The best way to be creative is to struggle through that boredom because your mind is forced to find something to entertain you. We also noticed that there was a lot of hallway use during class time. So we decided that we were only going to allow students on spares to have their phones in the hallway, but that became very difficult to enforce because it's difficult for an EA walking in the hallway to know who is on a spare and who is just who has just left their classroom. We also ran into problems with students who are using headphones in their class to reduce the noise or reduce the distractions. And at the end of the day, what we did some research, and basically what the research says is that music without lyrics is good, music with lyrics is bad. So it's just a distraction. So we ended up tightening that all up and opting not to allow for headphones unless they're part of a student's AEP plan. We did just start semester 2 on Monday, so the staff has committed to reinforce these rules and come back full force with them and send any problems to me. So in 2 days, I haven't had anyone sent to me yet, so that's a good thing. Last little bit of progress is some increase in our peer connections. So we had done some work in previous years looking for students that had no peer connections in the school, and those numbers have dropped this year from an average of 7% in each class last year to now only 3% of students are identifying as that they don't have peers that they're connecting with. We also had 11 fewer incidents, like social interaction incidents, that required my involvement, which is, or from semester 1 last year. So we were down from 33 incidents last year that I had to get involved with because student social interactions were unhealthy, and this semester we were down to 22, which is great to see. We also had a 5% reduction in our counselor visits that were related to specific social problems or mental health concerns during that same time. The one piece that I don't know if I should highlight, but our passing rate, which we expected to be significantly impacted, actually only increased by 5%. So we're not quite seeing the improvement in student success rate that we did last year, or that we expected in this, but again, it's going to take time for the students to get used to this policy. That's the end of my stuff. So do you have any questions?
Thank you, Kim. Questions for Kim? Trustee Nicol.
This question is going to be very difficult questions. I know I phoned you this afternoon, but I didn't have this in front of me, so that's why I couldn't ask you these questions then. It's fine and dandy, we'll say, to regulate what kids are doing with their cell phones, but how are you going to translate that? Because I think learning is self-regulation. Yes, they got to put the cell phone away, so okay, that's a rule, they know that's a rule, but how are you going to make them do it on their own when you're not there with a whip? And I know this is the first year, so I'm assuming that you're going to try to do that when they get to grade 12, but I'm just assuming that. Have you got something in plan that by the time the kids get out of grade 12, they're able to self-regulate the use of a cell phone, that they don't have to go and put it in the pocket. They can leave it where in their own pocket because they know they're not supposed to take it out. So have you got that plan yet?
So I won't say there's a specific plan in that, but the idea really with this was that we were going to reduce their habit or dependence on pulling their phones out right away. And what we are noticing, especially in our middle years classes, is that lots of them leave their phones in those pockets even over breaks. We've had parents, so I've had parents call me at 4:30 because they realized their kid left their phone at school. So it is already becoming less of a habit for them, just the fact that they're not pulling it out of their pocket every 15 minutes to check the time or to check their messages. So it is building that, or I guess reducing their dependence on it, so that self-regulation is built in.
Thanks, Kim. Did you want to ask any more? Okay, well, I'm going to go to Alicia and then I'll come back to you. I'll give her a break on you. Go ahead, Trustee Smith.
My question was, is there how much communication has been with the parents? Because I have my kids' tech on a parental lockdown. Like, it doesn't go after like a certain time, it's off. They can't get back on it. And like my internet, I have it password set, so if they're being disagreeable, I change the password. And I have it all on my phone. I'm like, I don't know if a lot of parents know about it or care to do that, but Like, that's how I limit it at my house. Like, I just like, shut it down. Like, just wondering if there's any communication with the parents on that end.
So I feel like you volunteered yourself because we are organizing a parent night where we're going to be bringing all of our parents in to talk about things that they can do to help their students with that. All of my communication with parents so far, though, has been very appreciative that we are cracking down on this because they're finding it a battle at home. And being a working parent, I know how hard it is to go home and have those battles. Like, you just want to go home and spend time with your kids. So sometimes it's a little helpful knowing that the school is tackling a little bit of that, or they can piggyback off of that. I actually had a parent leave their kid's phone with me for 2 weeks because she said, he knew the rules. I'm not picking it up. So that's one of the things in our policy, is that if a student is on their phone in class and they get sent to me because they aren't supposed to be on it, then the phone is left with me until a parent will come pick it up. So.
Sorry, parental feedback. Like, how did you get the feedback from the parents? Like, we're having a hard enough time getting them to come to PAC meetings. Like, how are we getting more parent feedback on this? Like, did they have a survey too, or just the kids through Teams?
So they haven't had their survey yet. That's coming up. We're going to hopefully have them complete that prior to our parent night and then tailor kind of what our presentations are going to be about at that time.
I'm guessing at parent night you'll have like paper surveys too, or no? I'm just wondering because some parents never check their email, never do anything.
It's a very good suggestion, and yes, we will make sure we have paper copies available. My student support team is really good about making phone calls for me too, though, to nag people that haven't completed things. One of the suggestions at our last staff meeting, actually, though, was having like a dinner, like hot dogs or something, and just enticing them in with food, and then, oh, by the way, we haven't seen your responses to these, so.
Trustee Nichol.
I assume that you made this in September, is that correct? Okay, because in the meantime, with the new government, they've come out and said that they do not want students to be suspended out of school. So how are you going to justify the last thing when they continue to do that, they are still going to be sent home from the school, which is against what the province has been indicating that they want us to do? I know you made this in September, so you didn't know about the policy, so I'm just saying.
So the idea of the cell phone policy is that parents are enforcing it. Our parents don't want their kids sent home from school either. In fact, any suspensions that I've had to give, I've had parents beg me if they can be in-school suspensions rather than out. So the idea behind that is just so that parents know that if their student is continually not following this rule, they're not allowed to have their phone on the premises. So it is going to be their responsibility to check backpacks, check pockets, and all that stuff before their kids are coming to school.
Lars, can you follow up on that as well, please?
Initially, when the government embarked on the suspension policy, there was very much the connotation of limiting suspensions. In our most recent update from the province, there was a full-on recognition that schools will be suspending students. We want to minimize that and make sure that we're following up appropriately and supporting students with plans and that sort of thing, but it was clearly recognized that that's going to be happening.
So, Trustee Nichol, just to come back to, is that, again, I think that what from Lars and Kathy, when they talk to schools, you know, kind of a last resort is really about suspending students, but you can suspend students, but if you're going to do it internally, those kind of things, but a last resort is kind of suspending students. Is that fair? Go ahead, Don.
Well, I think that's what the government said. The government didn't say no suspension. At least when I read the direction, right, when they put it out, they said they wanted to minimize it out of school. So, yeah, we know there's always going to be some out of school, because if something happens and there's matter of safety, maybe you have to have the kid out of school before you can make the adjustments so they can come to school safely. So the government didn't say that no out of school, they just want to minimize that.
Any other questions? Trustee Smith?
I believe one of the workshops from MSBA talks about the provincial topic on suspensions, because I just looked at them when I was picking mine, and I believe one of the workshops had to do with that.
Thanks. Anyone else? Diane?
I just wanted to comment that you kind of said you've only had a 5% increase in passing. 0.5. Oh, 0.5, okay. Oh, sorry. Well, I still feel that I really appreciate your endeavor, and I think that the passing rate, even if you have, it's only been a few months you've implemented this, the outcomes can only be better. So this is a great thing. I support you in this, and good luck, and I hope maybe we'll hear more results back after a full year or longer. Good luck.
Anyone else? Trustee Harris?
I would echo Diane's comment there. I commend the goal. Are you aware of other schools in the division that have a similar policy? And if so, did you consult with them on this?
I believe SMS has a cell phone policy. I'm not entirely sure what it is. But we did have conversations just about that whole use of, or making sure that use is only for educational purposes. Some of the concerns I know have been with other schools is that they don't have a one-to-one technology availability in their building, so they felt like students' personal devices were a way to get access to information, and we've just found that that's not really an issue for us with what we have available.
So you'll be able to lead a PD day next fall with the division with other schools.
I volunteered myself, I think. Thanks for trying to answer the question, Kim. Kim's job is Lactobani Senior, and mine would be all 19 schools, so I'm going to weigh in on the whole who's doing what. I think our schools have practices where technology and personal devices are used for educational purposes in classrooms, and they are under the direction of teacher. I don't think that they've gone the level of not having them in the hallway or having designated times or alternate activities for them. And I think that's where this is a really exciting adventure, is because it is equipping them with alternatives to how can they choose something different than, especially if they're feeling that they're not connected or they're feeling a little isolated. So I think that you are pioneering that in that sense.
Anyone else? So Kim, go ahead, Trustee Smith.
Sorry, my thought is it's almost like we're trying to make them pretend they're in the 90s, right? So it's not something they're used to. So like, even I had a phone in high school, but I think it's, congratulations on taking it on. I wish you all the best. I know I have issues with my children with the same thing with their phones. I don't have a way to lock those down. But congratulations on starting. Hopefully it goes everywhere.
Kim, my comment will be is that following up with what Diane and Robin said, is that I'm always looking at what are we doing academically? And you tied it in very nicely at the end by talking about a pass rate. And, you know, even though it's a 0.5%, I think what you're doing is that you're talking about, for me, is that you're demonstrating, you know, skills related to self-regulation, and you're talking about technology. But at the end of the day, do you know what, if we can, because of your doing this, we can get more kids passing and doing that, that's, for me, that's a bonus as to where things are. So kudos to you and your team for doing that. I would always encourage you that as you develop a goal, try to involve your parents as much as possible, and see where you're going. You're coming that on the next step as to where you are. So kudos to you. Kim, we're right in the middle, so your presentation's done. I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you a chance to answer one question. Trustees now, as I ask all schools. So ask all school principals. Right now, we're in the middle of deliberating a school budget. So tell us about what are your, how are things going for you at your school? And you've got the ears of 9 trustees, and you probably only have about a minute to go ahead and tell us, but tell us your thoughts about your priorities.
So I'm still very new with the budget piece. I had my meeting with Jody and she patted me on the back and said, good job, you were less over budget than the previous year. So I think right at this point, we are trying to get our music program back up and running. So my biggest ask is that my staffing not get cut, because I think I have worked it into my staffing that I can get some music going next year. I'm working with Greg Crow to try and get a music expert in for some part-time. So that's my big ask. My staff really feel like it's important to get something like that more creative back into our curriculums in our school. So that's my big ask.
Well, thank you very much on behalf of all of us here. Thanks for the work that you're doing at Lac Du Bonte Senior and with our students there, and we appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you. All right, I'm going to keep us going here. We got the minutes of January 16th. Be it resolved that the board adopt the January 16th minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Boyton, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Any comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 9-0. Thank you. 6.0 is Superintendent's Report. Kath?
Thank you very much. February is here, and so a couple of quick highlights. It's I Love to Read Month, as you heard in the Shara's story. It is also Black History Month, and I think that's something pretty important for us to be recognizing and celebrating through the month of February. I've also highlighted a week, February 11th to the 17th is important because it is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, and so it is a shout out and a thanks to everybody in our system who has a hand in helping our children learn and grow. So February 11th to the 17th is Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. We'll send a notice out and do some things for our staff. I do want to highlight the hard work of our Secretary-Treasurer and her team and the board, because I can say that we are on track to drafting and passing our 24-25 budget. I agree with the chair. There's still a bit of work to do in the next couple of meetings, but we'll spend some quality time together, and we are on track to what we need to do. February 22nd is an important date. We have all of our stakeholders who are able to come join us for the draft presentation of where we've landed, and the intention is that we need to come out the gate with a passed budget on March 5th. So the window of input is closing, but we are still hard at it. We have a municipality meeting on February 12th, and so one of the things that this board is doing is meeting with our municipalities, and the regional meetings are important. There are a number of folks around this room who will be heading up to Pine Falls to meet with the regional municipalities on Monday in the afternoon, and we'll have a chance to network there. Last bit is that we have the dates of the 24-25 calendar available. So I know that some people who work for the province have to put in their holiday dates and need to know when spring break is and when Christmas break is and all those things to be able to get out the gate on their seniority. So we have those dates. What we don't have and won't have until April are the 10 PD days or the 10 admin days. We try really hard to get those out the gate, but we have to line up with a couple of neighboring divisions for transportation. We have to line up with some of our colony holidays, and we've got to make sure that we've got an equal balance in our semesters and our evens and odds. So it is a work in progress until we get all of that information. We will come out as soon as we can with those 10 admin PD dates. Unless there are questions, that's the highlights for now.
And it's worth the trip to Pine Falls, so I just wanted to let everybody know that it's sunny, going to be sunny on that day for sure, so it's worth the trip. Thanks very much, Kath. Any questions for Kath or comments? Okay. You want to keep going? So, thank you. Jody?
Thank you. I'll pull it up here. Secretary Treasurer report, which apparently isn't loading. Yeah, I'll get it up here. Okay. Attached is the report, what all the departments are up to. February is not only I Love to Read month, it's also T4 month. So, woohoo! That's a pretty good segue. Yeah, pretty good. So payroll's busy preparing the T4s. We have over 1,000 T4s that we issue to all our staff. So a lot of numbers are being reviewed and verified. So it's a busy time for finance and payroll. Some information on transportation. The provincial tender did close, and some of the information wasn't surprising. We saw diesel buses increase. Their base costs have increased anywhere from 3 to 7%, depending on what vendor you'd select. Gas and propane, surprisingly, stayed less than 1% increase. So we have a tendency to purchase those gas and diesel propane buses. So our costs are very similar to last year, which is great. Maintenance, again, has been busy with the capital projects. We're still discussing with completion date on Edward Schreyer School. We are going through and finalizing the deficiency list and asking for some things to be fixed and redone. So we're working with Pico Architects still. Hazel Ridge, the gymnasium lift is coming along. Still, we're waiting on the electric panel. We had a meeting with the head contractor there, and just seeing what's taking so long. So it just sounds like the electrical panel work still needs to be done, but it is in operation. Springfield Collegiate, we've been busy with AJ Mechanical, their Johnson Controls, and Train. Those are the 3 companies that we've been working on for making sure the heating system is working. Since our meeting on January 18th, the vendors were there at the school for Thursday, Friday, and I believe it was also Monday and Tuesday, reviewing every unit that was installed in the classroom. So I'm happy to say that there's been a lot of good work being done. We're not out of the woods yet. We've had milder weather though, so we can't see the system really given a good test until we get into -30 temperatures. But what we have identified with these vendors, we've been able to fix the issues that we've been finding. But so there is a lot of good work. There were some noise issues with the units, with some classrooms. That's been mitigated. We've also had heat regulations with the thermostats. Those seem to be working now, so it seems like we're getting close to the end. But again, we can't really put it to the test until it's -30 again. And the way the weather is looking, it's going to be a bit of a while before we can really try that out again. The Science Lab Renewal Project, Breedan Construction is continuing on with the project. It's surprising from the last science lab we did. Right now we don't expect any delays. All of the parts that were normally delayed in the last project arrived on time. So it's really looking like a successful project right now. Still scheduled to be done by May of 2024. So if anybody else has any other questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Trustee Boyson?
Just wondering if any more tours are going to be set up before the end of the year.
I think the plan was that there will be, so it's just a matter of looking at calendars. I think it'll be after the budget's been done. We'll look at the calendars and put that on the to-do list.
Are there any school priorities that we as a group are looking at? Okay. Anything else for Jody? So Jody, I hate to bring up buses, but at the MSBA meeting yesterday morning, it was made clear that it is possible for schools in Manitoba to use electric buses. So I knew that we were kind of, back and forth about whether we can. And MSBA did say that there's nothing that says that you cannot use, there is nothing to say that you can't use an electric bus. Yep, Alicia?
I remember at one of our conferences, there was a school division that bought an electric bus, was having issues using it. I thought they would have looked into that. No?
That came out from at MSBA yesterday. I guess Kathy just whispered in my ear that the People Transportation Unit is saying something different. So do you know what, we'll check on that. But I was at a meeting yesterday, very clearly they said there is no regulation about you, that you cannot use a bus. But how about if we get that cleared for from People Transportation Unit to be sure? But I don't want to talk about buses anymore. Don?
If you're checking out, can you find, is it possible to find out whether you can retrofit old bus into electric? Or if they do allow buses, is it only new electric buses? Or can you take an old electric bus and put battery in and away you go?
Sure, we can look into that to go from there. Let's keep going on. Thanks for the Jody. Anything else for Jody? So we'll go to board business. We have monthly enrollment that there's for information. Any questions from anybody? And we have 8.2, board communication with the media. Kathy did put something together. I've said that I'm prepared to go ahead and put something into the paper. I'm prepared even to put something into the paper pre-budget to give people a heads up about where we are. This wouldn't go until I would say share this with everybody. But board communication, again, there's some information that's there that Kathy's put together. Did you want to address that at all, Kath?
Sure. So just very briefly, I went through and I grabbed everything from your policies that talk about communication, so you can go through here or you can go through all the policies and see if I've missed anything. Everything in policies that has to talk about this is listed and pulled out here. Everything in our procedures around public information and media relations and who speaks to the media is there. And after wading through all of that, I think that the recommendation I would bring forward is that if anybody wants to write an article, that an item be made on this meeting saying these are media submissions. And if there's an article you write, it goes to the superintendent and the board chair to proofread and edit. It would then come as an item with the document here, and it would be a pass or no pass. We would not be wordsmithing, or we would not be grammar correcting. We would pass or no pass and then be able to submit something to media. I do think that it can be attribute authorship to the person who wrote it, and it would just have to have the language on behalf of the board. So that, I think, fits in line with all of what you've already got in place for your policies and procedures, if you'd like.
So as I was thinking with this, when she said, I do not have a problem with trying to crack at putting an article into the paper about us and pre-budget deliberations, certainly to come here and then to get a pass or no pass, I guess, from people. And I'm okay with that. Is that okay that I bring that next together? I'll bring it, I guess, and if you don't like it, then you're going to say no pass. Trustee Smith.
I also had a thought behind a newsletter from the board that the schools can send out to the parents, because not everyone does read the newspaper. They really don't. So the schools have their newsletters, but I was thinking either that is also sent out to the parents at the same time, not a secondary thing, but that is sent to the paper, but also the same article is sent to the parents by email. It's just so we have more than one point of contact, so we can try to get more parents. That's all.
Yeah, and I think when we come up to setting a date for your strategic planning, that's exactly where all of those ideas would need to come forth and say, what is the work of the board? Because communication with the public is one of your strategic plan goals. And all of those ideas need to come to that table whenever you pick a date and say, what is our plan for that communication?
Any other comment? Thanks, Kath. Okay, let's keep going. So strategic plan meeting date. So Kathy has put it together, and I think today we want to get a date. So you've seen the information there. Make a suggestion, or I'll make one. Okay, I'll make one. Go ahead, Don. April the 9th. I was going to go a little bit earlier, but Don's suggesting April the 9th. Tuesday, April the 9th. Tuesday, April the 9th, going once. Tuesday, April the 9th, going twice. Okay, let's make a suggestion. Okay. Yep.
March, we're doing budget, we have our convention, and then we have spring break, so I'm in favor of April the 9th too.
So do we have heads rolling around at April the 9th from what Don's suggesting? Melissa, we good? Russ, we good with April the 9th? Strategic plan meeting? Okay. Yes? Rob?
Who's Rob?
Robin?
Yes.
Ooh. Oops. Note to self. We good? Okay. There we got our date, April the 9th. Thank you. We now have a report from Trustee Harris about the STA liaison report. Trustee Harris.
Thank you, Trustee Magnon. At agenda setting last week, Paul asked that I prepare a 7 to 10 page report about the STA meeting. I came up with 8 pages plus a 7-page addendum. I'm not going to read it all. I'll give you the highlights. You ask, you receive. At the 2023 inaugural board meeting of September 5th, 2023, I was appointed the STA liaison for the 2023-24 school year. 4 meetings are scheduled throughout the year with 3 representatives from the Sunrise Teachers Association and 3 representatives from the school division. The purpose of the meetings are to bridge relations between the STA and Sunrise to work on common goals. Contractual items are not discussed. The meeting of February 1st, 2024 was the 3rd of 4 for this year. I can't believe the year is practically over in terms of meetings for that. I've enjoyed every one of them. We had a full complement of people there at the meeting. There were about 6 agenda items, just to highlight a couple of them. The first item was dealing with the superintendent transition, starting April 1st. The second item was to prepare a fillable form for workplace safety and health incident reports. The idea there is to encourage staff to have an uptake on reporting those incidents. There was a final look at the scent aware policy in the school division. The fourth agenda item had to do with teachers driving students to events in the schools. The fifth item was dealt with Smooth Start conferences, and there was a good discussion on that. And lastly, an update on substitutes and the numbers that the division is using this year compared to last year. It was another great meeting, and I look forward to our final meeting come May the 9th. That's my summary of what happened. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Harris. Any questions, Trustee Nicol?
Is it possible to put that attach it to this, to the ESB? I'm getting older and I can't remember everything you said, so I'd like to see if it's possible to attach to the ESB.
So we didn't get approval from all the people in attendance for the written report to be attached to ESB. That's why it wasn't put up there yet. I will defer to Kathy as to the possibility of that.
I think in all fairness, we want to make sure that if we're having a meeting and we're not keeping formal minutes to a meeting, which we don't at STA Liaison, that we at least let everybody know in the meeting that we are going to share those notes or share the highlights of that publicly. We haven't done that as a practice, so I think in all fairness, if that's going to be our practice, we want to make sure that both sides are okay with that.
So I guess the question then is that you'll find out, Trustee Harris, that if both sides are okay with that, share with us, and then if it's possible, then you'll get them up to ESB, correct?
Yes, and I think part of that is, will it become a public document or will it just be shared with trustees? That's where part of the concern would be.
So as of right now, you are presenting in the public the information. The document isn't available. So again, some further discussion, but you are presenting certainly in public right now.
Oh, certainly, but the report I have is far more detailed than what I said, there's a lot of information in it as to what we did, yeah.
Trustee Nicol?
Well, you just kind of said what I was going to say. It's in the public already, so therefore, but if you only paraphrased it, well, that's a different story then, if you didn't put the whole report in. If not, I still think that the board should be able to know, if we don't want to put it in public, I think then the board, and we don't want to put in ESB, we'll put it in the in-camera part of it, so that at least then the trustees knowing what is being discussed, because some of those teachers on there might see us in somewhere, and they might be talking some things. It'd be nice for us to know what did take place at those meetings.
I think the group will do their due diligence and certainly come back to us with that information, but nice work, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Accounts receivable. So we have a recommendation to do that, so I'm going to put a board motion together, and then we'll speak to the we'll let Jody speak to it. It's be it resolved that the board approve the amount of $1,300 for invoice 2022-0027 to be written off. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nicol, seconded by Trustee Dent. Jody, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak to the motion, please.
Thank you. Yes, the motion put forward is just referencing the outstanding invoice from the 2021 to 2022 school year. We had an invoice issued to Cross Lake Education Authority for a student that was in attendance for a few months at one of our schools. That student, by January 22, left our division and is no longer attending. They did not come back to the division. So we've made several attempts throughout the year, the school years, to try and collect, but at this point in time, the Education Authority is not going to issue payment. It was discussed a couple times at the Finance Committee meetings as well, with their support of approving the write-off. So at this time, I'm confident that we're not going to collect these monies.
Thanks, Jody. Don, did you want to make anything? You made the motion. Did you want to comment anything? Okay. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Go, Trustee Rowan.
Just to clarify, the purpose of writing it off is it would no longer be displayed as revenue expected in our, and for everybody's.
Yeah, so we will reduce the revenue. We have a write-off amount that we put in the budget every year, which this fits our budget amount as well. We put about $3,000 aside for potential write-offs. It sometimes happens. We haven't had one in a long time, but it fits within the budget.
Anything further? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. So it passed 9-0, thank you. We have a bus purchase. There's information that's there. Be it resolved that the board approve the use of funds from the bus reserve and operating funds to purchase one bus from Steinbach Bus Sales. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nicol, seconded by Trustee Smith. Any comments to it? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Are we waiting? Stace? Oh. Okay, so it passed 8-1, thank you. Springfield Collegiate Institute Band Program, Brandon Jazz Festival, March 14th and 15th. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Springfield Collegiate Institute Band Program Jazz Festival trip planned March 14th and 15th, 2024, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Questions? Hearing, go ahead.
It's not a question, it's more of a comment. I attended this event from grade 5 all the way up to grade 12. It is a fantastic opportunity. The kids are broken up into workshops, so if they're wins, they go to a workshop, they learn with someone completely different, they collaborate with other students from different school divisions. They also perform and get assessed and get trophies, we'll say. So I had a very positive experience throughout my school, and I think it's a great thing.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 9-0, thank you. We have committee reports. So we have our policy committee. I'm going to turn it over to you, Trustee Nicol. Anything from policy that you want to share?
Yes, there was a meeting on the 30th of January, and one of the things we did, we changed a word from employees to staff, and I'm not quite sure whether that's just an editorial change or a grammatical change. We can bring it forward to our next meeting to change that if the board wants us to do, or to change it from, because we change it from employee to staff. Or that's one of those things that we can change without going through the board. So I guess I just need maybe a show of hands. Do you want us to bring it to the board for the change, or is that okay with everybody?
Trustee Smith.
The reason we changed it was so I believe it was for the trustees to be included in as well, so we didn't have to change any more wording. We just went with the definition in our policies, what it is, to include us. So that was the only reason we did change that one word, just to make sure we were included as well in that policy.
What would we be including trustees in with the staff about? In everything?
That was, sorry, I believe that was a social media policy, just so we have to follow the same guidelines on how to use social media policy usage.
So, Don, I think you're looking for a show of hands to see if it's fine.
So I define it whether you want to bring it to the board at the next meeting, or whether that's just a grammatical change.
So we're okay with the grammatical change? Diane, Alicia, Don, Russ, Melissa, Lorraine, Dustin, up in. Oops. Okay, we're good. Grammatical change. Thank you. Anything else you want to add?
The next meeting is on February 29th, and if you're interested in listening to us talk, we're on Teams. So I think we're starting at 5:30. So if you want to listen and not talk, that's okay.
Trustee Smith?
I just wanted Kathy to touch base on how our meetings are run, because I do know we did have difficulty with one trustee on the phone, one on Teams, one in the room. It was chaotic. We need to figure out how to work that out a bit better.
Yes, I think we wanted to just share for other committees that if you have that same issue. So we do, for our committee meetings, have in-person as an option, and we have Teams as an option, and we'll use the OWL. We don't set up the phones and the microphones. So it is extremely difficult to do the OWL in person and a phone to try to juggle for a committee of 4 people. So if you're having a committee meeting and for some reason someone should need to phone in, as well as the Teams option, the in-person, we need about 24 hours notice to get phones and microphones set up, because last minute doesn't work for us. So just as an FYI, if you're having a small group meeting.
So why do we have the option of in-person, Teams, and phoning in? Why can we not always just either use Teams or use 2 of the 3? So in-person and either Teams and or phone. Why do we have all 3, Don?
Because of technological reasons, because we couldn't get on, one of the trustees couldn't get on Teams, so therefore either he didn't attend or we tried to do it on phone. But this is the first time that we did that, and we realized that it is very difficult to have the three things going at the same time unless we have a 24-hour notice. Because we didn't have time to set it up, and we just took our cell phone and put it over here or whatever it is, but it was a little bit more difficult, that's all. That's the only reason why we did it.
So staff, is it possible for us to have a meeting like that with phone, owl, and in person?
As long as we have the phone and the microphones, because the microphones run through the telephone. So it can absolutely work, but we have to have it set up. And so again, having the technology staff here to come set up microphones and telephone for us is important. So if life happens and we have to do a phone call thing, then we either need to not be at the committee or we need to try to give us advance notice, because it didn't work well. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. We're not issuing blame. It's just we have to kind of navigate that, because we've said we're doing in person and we're offering the Teams option and we've done phone things. It becomes really hard to navigate if we're adding too many things without being ready for it. That's all.
Anyone comment? Okay, so we need advance warning. Thank you. Trustee Boyton, Finance Committee update, please.
Minutes are in the package. Our next meeting is February 27th. At the end of December, the overall budget was 36% spent, comparable to last year and on track. So nothing outstanding or earth-shattering, and we're moving forward.
Comments from anyone? Thank you. So I'm the signing authority for the month of February, and we do have a check register we need to pass. Be it resolved, the board received the December 2023 check register. Total amount of checks is $3,427,612.64, reviewed on January 18th by the Finance Committee for information as submitted. So moved by Trustee Boyton, seconded by Trustee Dent. So it passed 9-0. Thank you for that. Education Foundation Committee update. This is you, Jody.
I thought maybe the chair of the board, but no, but I could. The update is really, we had a great meeting just the other day, January 31st. We met and went through the procedure for the processes that the committee is suggesting to follow. There's a couple things I have to, I guess, wordsmith, and then we hope to bring it to the board in the near future to discuss and see if the board supports the direction that this Education Foundation Committee has been putting towards. Lots of work, lots of input. It's been good discussion.
Thanks, Dustin, and Don, you can jump in here, but I do think that when it comes out in your package, take a good look at it, because it's really about allocating responsibilities to this, and it's not necessarily always coming back to the entire board. So please take a look at it, and once we have it, then it'll be a healthy discussion, certainly as to where we move forward. So thanks for that work as we move forward. Any questions?
Will there be minutes? Hold on. Will there be minutes of the meeting posted at some point?
I guess so. At that time, there wasn't a whole bunch of formal minutes. It's just us discussing the input on the policies and procedures.
So I don't think that there's minutes to those meetings. Nobody was taking minutes. I do think, though, that it is going to come out with Here's the processes for the foundation, and it's up to the board then to have a discussion with the board to decide as to what's up. But I don't think that there's any formal minutes as we discussed. Dawn or Dustin, you want to jump in?
The minutes will be the final report. There'll be one set of minutes which will be the final report, because really what we're doing is that we were discussing things, and it's a final report is a product. So what we discuss, we have an agenda. If you want to see the agenda, we can look at the agenda, but we didn't make a decision until the final report is made.
I was just going to add, Dawn kind of took the words out of my mouth. We do, just like every other committee, we do have all the information uploaded on ESB. So if anybody wants to take a look, just like on policy committee and finance committee, you can go on and look at the information that we've been reviewing and an updated version of the procedures. So the next meeting that we get together in March is we'll be looking at basically the first final draft of the procedures.
So I do see the agenda up there as I do with other committees, but being a committee of the board, I think there should be minutes to at least let the rest of the board know who was in attendance at minimum, because we don't know who was there. Just like any other committee, we see minutes for policy, we see minutes for finance. I think we should see minutes for this, but that's me. Maybe it doesn't feel, I'm getting the feeling that doesn't apply to everyone else, so that's fine.
Trustee Smith?
We don't have minutes for any of the ad hoc committees either. Melissa just did a verbal report on the one that they're doing, and then the one regarding the union negotiation stuff, that's an ad hoc too. We're not going to have minutes on that either, so it's either just the two set policy and finance and our main one. I don't think it's necessary personally.
Thank you, Alicia. Dawn?
Yeah, with second thought, Rob and I agree that we should have minutes, because that's the only way that we can get paid, because that's the only way there's a check. If there's no check, like before when Stacy, if there was a meeting, she can go back and see, okay, I put down that I was at this meeting. The only way that she can check to see that I actually was at the meeting was to check the minutes. So I agree that that's probably something that we will discuss at the next meeting, and I'm in favor now that there really should be minutes, at least who attended and more or less what we discussed.
This is a great conversation, because you're right, we don't have minutes for all of our meetings, but if it's just to get paid, I'm not so sure that that's in my opinion, but it's great for us to think about. I think the idea always is about us sharing information and making sure people have information. I think the agenda's up on ESB and that kind of stuff, so yeah, good point. Let's keep on talking about it. Trustee Nichol?
I'm saying not for us to necessarily get paid, but for the auditor. The auditor will want to know why you paid him for this meeting when there's no record of him being at the meeting. If I was an auditor, I would want to know that. So that's why I'm saying, as an auditor, the audit may not check for everybody, but just will check at random and see, well, are they doing it the proper way? And to me, I think that's the proper way as an accountant. I'm not an accountant. I used to just teach it.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Okay, we'll talk about it and kind of see where we come from. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. So professional development, the MSBA, the annual general meeting is March 21st and 22nd. So Sarah and Stacy, our trustees, would be giving you information certainly about attending and information for lodging. Stacy, have we done that?
All the hotels have been booked for everyone. You would just have to let Sarah know if you do not plan on going, so she can cancel your room.
Okay, thank you. We have information, a divisional financial summary report for information. You wanted to? Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Boyton.
I was just talking about the sessions that we want to go to. Usually Stacy would book them. We'd let her know which sessions we wanted to be entered into, and she would do that.
So same thing, you would just let Sarah know the sessions you'd like to go to. Sooner the better, because they can fill up quickly. and then she can let MSBA know who's in what session. But again, sooner the better. I don't know the deadlines, I'm sorry, but sooner the better. Thanks.
However, if you try to book and you try to book on March the 1st and Sarah can't get you in, don't blame Sarah. It's about you getting that information to Sarah yesterday. All right? The longer you wait is the longer that you don't get into a session. Trustee Boyton?
I know that there was some talk amongst trustees about CSBA, which is July the 5th to the 3rd to the 5th. And then the last year when I went, I had a hard time getting a room. So the board hasn't approved anybody to go yet, and I just thought maybe we should do that.
Do we need to approve it today, or can we approve it? Can we approve it, can we get it on our next agenda item and then approve it as we come up? Yes. Go ahead, Alicia.
I second what Trustee Boyton said. For hotel accommodations, we have to do it sooner than later.
So can we get this done for, when do we meet again? February? The 20th? Can we do this on the 20th? Will that work? Okay, so we'll do it on February the 20th. Thank you for bringing that up. Sorry, we're on Divisional Financial Summary Report. That's there for information. Anybody need for us to go over that? Okay. Nice to know information, 12.0, you have that information, thank you. You have upcoming meetings. Public budget meeting, a reminder, is February 22nd. And we have our budgets there. Do we have any questions from the public, Stacy? I mean, not Stacy, Jody.
No emails from the public.
Okay, hearing none other. Before we move into regular, we do have an item from in camera that we can go ahead, a motion that we can go ahead. If we do that, we are not going to have any other motions coming out, so I think that we go ahead and do that. We still need to go back into in camera, but we don't think there's motions coming from there, but I'd like to get this motion here. Trustee Rowland?
Sorry, Paul. Did we review the divisional financial summary report?
I asked and nobody said...
Oh, I'm sorry. Jody had nothing to add to that. Sorry. Too quick for me. Thank you.
So the motion is 18.1. Be it resolved that the board authorize the superintendent to implement the management administrative change as presented and recommended in camera. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nicol, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Any comments to this? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. And it passed 9-0, thank you. So we are now going to move into in-camera, and for anybody that's in the public is that we are not going to be coming out with any motions. We just have something to finish up that's in camera. And Trustee Harris will take us through that. So do we need a 3-4 minute break, or can we go right in? Let's take a 3-4 minute break and let's come back in about 5 minutes, please.